Now, Pat's asked me to speak to you about what MCLM is doing at home. Allow me first to lend a context to what I'm about to say. Let me share with you two very short stories. Yeah. Let me just share with you two very short stories. These are true stories, yeah? 2009. This is after the general elections. This is in Selayang. A 12-year-old boy has disciplinary problems in school. He is found to be consistently skipping the last lesson. He's been put through to detention class. He's been subjected to several disciplinary measures. Things reach ahead. The school is threatening expulsion. And the boy is given one final chance to explain to the headmaster, to the disciplinary master, why he is missing the last lesson every day. This is in Selayang. Huh? He breaks down and cries and he tells the truth. This is the truth. The house is not far from the school. He has to skip the last lesson to run home so that his elder brother, who is in Form 1 and in the afternoon session, can take the school uniform and the shoes and attend the afternoon session. All right, this is a Malay family. Now, this is not something I've conjured here to get you all teary-eyed. This is the truth in Selayang. In Chowkit, a migrant family of 5 start the day sharing one roti canai. Okay? The Federal Territory Minister earlier this year, Raja Nongchik, had the audacity to say abject poverty in KL is near non-existent. All right? Now, let's lend a further context to this. 1970 government statistics. 49% of the rakyat were impoverished. From 1974 is when we had Petronas established. 1974 to 2009. It is estimated that something between 1.5 to 2.5 trillion ringgit has passed through national coffers. Right? This is from our oil industry. 1.5 to 2.5. Government statistics 2009 will have you believe that they have done a successful job reducing poverty from 49% in 1970 to a mere 3.8. 3.8%. They would have us believe 3.8% households are impoverished. You know how they achieve that? By tweaking a poverty line indicator, PLI. Semenanjung, if a household earns 763 ringgit, you are not poor. You have to earn 762, a household income of 762 in Semenanjung before you are categorized as poor. In Sabah, it is 1055. The cost of living in Sabah is higher. Now, if you look at international statistics, a figure of 1,005 to 2,000 is more realistic. All right? Now, if you take that realistic figure, we are back to 49%. We are back to 49%. Now, the question that begs answering is, where in heaven's name has that money gone? All right? Now, 49%. In reality today, 40% of the nation, 28 million Pat mentioned just now, that's about 13 million Malaysians live in impoverished conditions. Now, with that context, let me take you to the efforts to first form MCLS. 2004, 2005, a group of us, led by Datuk Zaid Ibrahim, attempted to register Malaysian Civil Liberties Society. The application was filed in 2005. It still sits at ROS. It hasn't moved. All right? And I do not think if we waited another 6 years, it would move. Remember, Datuk Zaid had become law minister, and still that application could not move. Now, 2008, in the run-up to the 12 GE, Pat and I and a few others came up with 2 documents for civil society called the People's Voice and the People's Declaration. If you go to the MCLM website, you can actually pick up those documents there. Now, the People's Voice was essentially a what we do not wish list. We don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want race politics, we don't want marginalization. And it's about 7 pages. And the People's Declaration is a 19-page wish list, if you will. I actually see it as a blueprint for 20 years of nation building. Six political parties, including DAP, PAS, and PKR, endorsed those documents in the run-up to the 12 GE. And because they endorsed, I'll speak for myself, I think it was probably the same with Pat, we went down to ground and we campaigned. And our campaign was essentially this: to wake up the rakyat, to get them to understand that the Constitution places in our hands, through the vote, the power and the ability to bring about change through democratic process, 1. Number 2, and this was important for me, to end the marginalization of so many Malaysians. 3, to take ownership of the country. That means taking ownership of your institutions, your processes, that we should no longer treat or see our participation in the electoral process as merely once in 5 years going to vote and then literally giving a blank check to the politicians. We needed to engage them and, if possible, to enter into partnership with the politicians, no longer a blank check. Now, we hoped to see regime change. It didn't quite happen. But opposition made significant inroads. We hoped that perhaps BN would wake up to this, that the rakyat were ready for change, that the rakyat were no longer going to tolerate incompetence in government, worst, corruption. What have they given us? One Malaysia. But we still hear Bumi, non-Bumi. The last few days we've heard one Melayu. All right? One Bumi, one Melayu. All right? And this is supposed to be one Malaysia. If you enter Najib's website and look at his One Malaysia program, it still talks about economic development. There is no consistent addressing the need of a society that is so splintered. And we do not see the political moral will to bring about that change. So personally, I do not see BN bringing the change we need until they are dropped into the Indian Ocean. We hoped that Pakatan might show the way. I don't want to turn this into a Pakatan bashing session, but let's call a spade a spade. Many in society, many of the rakyat are disenchanted. Many of the rakyat are disappointed. Many of the rakyat hope to see a rejuvenated opposition that is ready to take on BN in the 13 GE. The concerns that we have, Perak fell. Why? Elected reps failing to understand that they have taken an oath, that rakyat have placed their faith in them, that seat is not a chip to be bargained and traded with. Last year, 5 MPs declared themselves BN friendly independent. I don't know what that means. I really don't know what that means. But I understand that most, if not all of them, became significantly richer after that crossover. Now, last year, with all this happening, Pat and I spoke, and we felt that we need a vehicle to continue to pursue this agenda of change. And we came up with MCLM, Malaysian Civil Liberties Movement. Now, if you go to the website, our vision is one. Very simple. To restore, to put back on track The vision for nation building that our forefathers envisioned when this nation, first Malaya and later Malaysia, was conjured and contrived to take us back. That got derailed, I think, in my view, post 1969. And we've not seen a single government to this date that has shown the political will or the commitment to take us back on track. Now that's the vision of MCLM. How do we do this? How do we do this? Again, Pat and I sat and deliberated on this at length, and we came up with a manifesto that we hoped the political parties, the non-BN political parties, because we've given up with BN. I've given up with BN.